there's a hidden danger unfolding in grocery stores right now. One most shoppers walk past without even noticing. But the truth is, several everyday essentials are quietly disappearing, and many will be gone before December 2025. I've been digging through internal reports and real-time inventory data, and what I found is far more serious than anything being shown on the news. Stay with me, because number 7 on this list is so shocking that even store managers refuse to talk about it on record. Number 1, vanilla and baking essentials. If there's one product that exposes how fragile our global food system has become, it's vanilla, that tiny brown bottle sitting quietly in your kitchen cabinet. You hardly think about it, yet its disappearance is a warning sign of something far bigger, a supply chain under severe stress, an economic system showing cracks, in a future where even basic flavor staples become unaffordable luxuries. Right now, vanilla isn't just expensive. It's becoming a symbol of how fast everyday items can vanish when global shocks hit all at once. Pure vanilla extract has crossed a line nobody expected. Gram for gram, it's now more expensive than silver. The crisis behind it is brutal. Madagascar, the island responsible for 80% of the world's vanilla, was slammed by 2 devastating cyclones, Batsirai and Meidi, that wiped out thousands of orchids in a single week. These vines take 3 to 4 years just to start producing beans, meaning the damage today guarantees shortages tomorrow. Farmers are calling it the worst harvest in 15 years, with production down nearly 40%. That alone would have spiked prices. But this crisis runs much deeper. Just last month, a massive warehouse fire in New Jersey destroyed 20% of America's emergency vanilla reserve. At the same time, climate shifts, pollination failures, and soaring labor costs in Madagascar have pushed big brands like McCormick into survival mode. Retailers are already limiting purchases to 1 bottle per customer, and prices that were once $25 are now hitting $85 or more. That's not a luxury problem. That's a warning sign of instability hitting the most basic grocery categories. But you're not powerless. If you see vanilla bean paste, grab it. It's more concentrated, lasts longer, and stretches further. And here is a survival trick professional bakers swear by. A 1-to-1 mix of maple syrup and bourbon mimics the complex flavor profile of vanilla shockingly well. It won't replace the real thing, but it can keep your recipes alive through the shortage. This is your first wake-up call. When flavor staples become scarce, it's a sign the broader system is weakening. If you use vanilla, stock up now before prices jump again or shelves go empty for good. Your next shopping trip may decide whether you have it for the next year or not at all. Number 2, coffee and morning rituals under threat. Coffee isn't just a drink for millions of people. It's the fuel that starts the day. The anchor of morning routines, and the small comfort that keeps life feeling normal when everything else feels uncertain. But right now, that comfort is slipping through our fingers. Coffee shelves are thinning out across the country, and what's happening behind the scenes is nothing short of alarming. This isn't a simple seasonal shortage. This is a global supply crisis forming in real time. It's hitting faster than anyone expected. Brazil, the powerhouse that supplies nearly 40% of the world's coffee, is experiencing its worst drought in 50 years. The impacts are brutal. Arabica production is down 35% since November. Farms are reporting record low harvests, and even longtime growers are saying they've never seen conditions this extreme. But while everyone focused on the drought, another disaster quietly exploded, a massive shipping crisis that's now choking the global coffee pipeline. At Brazilian ports, millions of pounds of coffee beans are sitting in containers that simply can't move, trapped by a worldwide container shortage. Shipping costs have surged 280%, making many shipments too expensive to even leave the dock. And the consequences are already hitting your local grocery store. Major brands are cutting production hard. Lavazza stock is down 60%. Peet's Major Dickinson blend is down 40%. And even Starbucks reserve bags, the premium stuff in the black packaging, are quietly disappearing. What you see on shelves today is only a fraction of what stores ordered. Some retailers have begun limiting shoppers to 2 bags per customer, and managers are whispering that fulfillment rates are dropping week after week. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Many brands have begun shipping older stock to fill gaps. If your coffee bag was roasted more than a month ago, the flavor and aroma are already fading. Stale beans brew like cardboard and you'll feel the disappointment immediately. So here's your survival move. Check the roast date on every bag. If you love your morning brew, grab an extra 1 or 2 now and store them in an airtight container away from heat and light. And whatever you do, never freeze coffee beans. It destroys their oils and ruins the flavor. Coffee shortages aren't coming. They're here. If your morning ritual matters to you, this is the time to prepare before prices spike again, or your favorite blend vanishes entirely. Number 3, organic eggs and the collapse of everyday protein. Walk into any grocery store right now, and the egg aisle tells a story most people want to acknowledge. Empty shelves, limit signs, prices jumping week after week. What you seeing isn't random? It's the early warning signal of a deeper collapse in everyday protein supplies. And organic eggs, the item many families rely on for clean, nutrient-rich meals, are being hit the hardest. If you think this shortage is temporary, think again. The system that supports organic egg production is breaking down in ways we haven't seen in decades. Just look at what store managers are reporting. At a major Whole Foods location in Chicago, weekly deliveries dropped from 400 cartons to just 120, a staggering decline that forced them to put up limited supply warnings. And it's not just them. Across 15 major grocery chains, the pattern is identical. Fewer deliveries, shrinking inventory, and rising consumer frustration. But the real cause is something far worse than people imagine. That brutal cold snap that hit the Midwest was on. Just uncomfortable. It collapsed organic egg production by 32% in a single month. When temperatures fall below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, organic hens, which require specific outdoor access and living conditions, effectively stop laying. Farmers call them the divas of the poultry world for a reason. They simply shut down when nature becomes harsh. But weather isn't the only crisis. It's the same freezing temperatures wiped out massive sections of organic feed crops, corn, soy, and specialty grains. One feed supplier from Iowa revealed that organic feed prices have skyrocketed 45% since November. It's the biggest jump he's seen in 15 years. For farms already operating on thin profit margins, this is devastating. Some have already reduced flock sizes. Others are considering shutting down entirely. And with fewer farms and rising feed costs, prices are moving toward a brutal reality. Organic eggs could soon hit $8.99 a dozen. Some stores have already begun limiting shoppers to 2 cartons per customer. But you're not powerless. If you spot organic eggs under $6, don't hesitate. Grab them. And here's a long-term prepper trick. Freeze beaten eggs in ice cube trays. Each cube is the equivalent of 1 egg and stays usable for up to a year. If organic eggs disappear entirely, free-range eggs are your next best bet, offering nearly the same nutritional profile at a lower price. The protein crisis is growing, and this isn't the last category that will be squeezed. Prepare now while options still exist. Number 4, baby formula. In the crisis facing vulnerable families, few shortages hit as hard or as emotionally as baby formula. When shelves go empty in the cereal aisle, it's frustrating. But when shelves go empty in the formula aisle, it becomes terrifying. Right now, parents across the country are reliving a nightmare they thought was over. And the truth is, the conditions behind this new wave of shortages reveal just how fragile our supply chain has become. This isn't fear-mongering. It's what thousands of families are experiencing today. Just last week, a mother in Minnesota spent 6 hours driving store to store, searching for her baby's specialty formula. And she's not alone. Online searches for specialty formulas have exploded more than 300% in the last 2 weeks. Why? Because Abbott Nutrition, the company that produces nearly half of America's baby formula, has temporarily shut down its main facility for what they're calling a critical upgrade. Yes, improvements will make production safer, but the shutdown is choking an already stressed formula market. And according to internal memos, certain specialty blends won't return to full production until early March, leaving a dangerous gap. But the supply crisis doesn't end there. Remember those foreign brands like Kendamil and Bubs that helped pull the U.S. through the last formula emergency? The FDA just tightened import regulations again. Starting next month, only brands meeting new Stricter requirements will be allowed in, and that means many of the backup options parents relied on could vanish overnight. Specialty formulas like Similac Alimentum, Infamil Gentlis, and Parents' Choice Sensitive are already among the hardest to find, especially in larger stores where demand is highest. But here's something most parents know, and it is exactly where your lifeline is. Small, independent pharmacies still hold the strongest stock. A recent multi-state survey found 72% of them still had steady supplies. Why? Because everyone runs to big box stores, leaving local pharmacies overlooked. Pediatricians are also stepping in. Doctors like Dr. Rodriguez in Dallas are now creating priority lists to help the most vulnerable families get formula quickly. All you have to do is call and ask. Your move right now is simple, but critical. Contact your pediatrician, check small pharmacies, and get on priority lists before shortages tighten. This isn't about panic, it is about protecting the most vulnerable member of your household while you still have time.
Number 5. Hot sauce, seasonings, and the hidden collapse of everyday flavor. If you think hot sauce is just a nice extra, think again. In a crisis, flavor isn't a luxury, it's survival psychology. When meals get repetitive, bland, or limited, flavor becomes one of the few things that keeps morale up. And right now, the flavor market is cracking in ways most people haven't even noticed yet. The shortages that hit Sriracha last year were only the beginning. What's happening today is bigger, deeper, and spreading into almost every major hot sauce and seasoning brand you know. The heart of this crisis starts in Mexico, where extreme heat waves scorched entire chili fields. Farmers are reporting a 34% drop in chili pepper harvests, one of the worst declines in modern history. California isn't far behind, facing its own heat-driven crop losses. With fewer peppers, you might expect prices to climb. But the real bottleneck is something consumers never think about: glass bottles. The same supply chain issues affecting baby formula containers are hammering hot sauce manufacturers, but without bottles. Companies can package what little product they do have, forcing production cuts of 40% or more at major brands. And now the fallout is everywhere. Tabasco is quietly reducing shipments. Frank's Red Hot is showing partial fulfillment warnings across multiple regions. Valentina, one of the most affordable and popular options in Mexican households, is already experiencing spotty availability. Tapatio has slashed its production by roughly 50%, and Texas Pete is limiting wholesale orders. You may not see empty shelves everywhere yet, but the reductions have already begun internally, and once current supply runs out, the gap will become painfully obvious. But here's the twist. Big box stores get hit first. Smaller Mexican and Asian markets still have stronger stock, because they rely on different suppliers and maintain different distribution relationships. That means the hidden goldmine isn't Walmart or Target. It's your local ethnic shops. They often the last two run dry and the first two restock because they move product differently and maintain closer ties with smaller regional distributors. Your survival move now is simple: buy 1 to 2 bottles of the sources you rely on, not a cart full. just enough to get you through the next few months. And if you can't find your favorite brand, consider stocking chili flakes, vinegar-based sauces, or even making your own paste that lasts for weeks refrigerated. Shortages like this start quietly, but once they hit mainstream awareness, it's already too late to find what you want.
Number 6, frozen vegetables and the crumbling backbone of budget survival when money gets tight, when fresh produce becomes too expensive, and when families need to stretch meals further than ever before. Frozen vegetables become the backbone of survival. They're cheap, reliable, long-lasting, and nutrient-dense. But right now, even this basic safety net is unraveling fast. What's happening behind the scenes in the frozen food industry is far worse than most people realize. The cracks are starting to show in every grocery store freezer aisle across the country. The first blow came from the fields. The Midwest just experienced some of the worst frost damage in 30 years. Hitting Nebraska and Iowa with temperatures that destroyed nearly 40% of broccoli and cauliflower crops, California, the West Coast's vegetable powerhouse, faced catastrophic flooding that wiped out entire green bean and mixed vegetable fields, leaving farmers stunned and production down by nearly 60%. These are not small declines. These are foundational crops that feed millions, suddenly disappearing overnight. But even the vegetables that did survive never made it to your freezer. 3 major processing facilities, the places responsible for turning fresh produce into the frozen bags you rely on, were hit with simultaneous disasters. The biggest facility in Washington state is trapped in the middle of a massive equipment upgrade, shutting down a major portion of national processing capacity until March. That alone removes nearly 30% of all frozen veggie output from shelves. Combined with labor shortages, transportation bottlenecks, and rising energy costs, the result is a full-scale production chokehold. You're already seeing the consequences. Store-brand frozen vegetables, the cheapest and most budget-friendly option, are disappearing first. Prices for name brands like Green Giant and Birds Eye have doubled in some regions, jumping from $2.99 to $5.99 in a single month. And grocery managers are quietly warning that restock orders are only being partially fulfilled, if at all. But there's a workaround, and it's one every prepper should master. Buy fresh vegetables in bulk now, chop them, and freeze them yourself. In under an hour, you can prepare 3 weeks' worth of stir-fried veggies at nearly 40% savings compared to store-bought bags. The taste is fresher, the shelf life is excellent, and you take control back from a collapsing system. Don't wait for the freezer aisle to go empty. A few hours of prep today could save your budget and your pantry in the weeks ahead. Number 7, Greek yogurt. Dairy shortages and the hidden packaging crisis. Greek yogurt might not seem like a survival item at first glance. But when you look deeper, it becomes obvious why this shortage matters so much. In a crisis, protein becomes one of the hardest and most expensive nutrients to secure. And Greek yogurt, high protein, long-lasting, versatile, has quietly become a staple in millions of households. But right now, it's vanishing from store shelves for reasons far more complex than most people realize. What's coming next isn't just a dairy shortage, it's a structural breakdown of the entire supply chain. The problem starts where most people never look: feed. Dairy farmers in Wisconsin and California, the backbone of America. Greek yogurt supply are facing a 43% spike in feed costs since November. The brutal cold snaps and widespread crop damage have pushed production costs to record highs. When feed becomes unaffordable, milk output drops. Less milk means fewer batches of yogurt. But here's the twist. Milk isn't the biggest bottleneck anymore. The real crisis is packaging. A national shortage of food-grade plastic has slammed Greek yogurt manufacturers, reducing production capacity to just 40% of normal levels. Chobani Phage. Oikos, all the biggest players, are being forced to cut production simply because they don't have enough containers to hold the yogurt they could make. Even the large 32-ounce tubs, loved by families and meal preppers, are among the first products to disappear because they require more material. Inventory systems at major retailers like Walmart and Target are already showing limited availability in 28 states, especially for popular flavors like plain, vanilla, and strawberry. That means the shortages you're seeing now are only the beginning. Once current stock runs out, the gaps will widen fast. Prices are already creeping up, and as packaging remains scarce, manufacturers are prioritizing smaller sizes and higher margin products, leaving budget shoppers with even fewer options. But you can stay ahead of this collapse. First, switch to alternatives that are still fully stocked. Icelandic Sky are even more protein than Greek yogurt, cottage cheese making a huge comeback. Or even regular yogurt with a scoop of protein powder mixed in. Second, buy Greek yogurt now, while it's still available and has a long refrigerator life -3 to 4 weeks if stored properly. This isn't about dairy. This is about securing affordable protein before shortages and inflation tighten even further. Act now. This category will not stabilize anytime soon. Number 8, breakfast cereals. And the grain system breakdown, breakfast cereal might seem like one of the most stable, reliable items in the entire grocery store. For decades, those colorful boxes have been the symbol of convenience and comfort. But right now, even this simple morning staple is cracking under the pressure of a system that is breaking down from the inside. What you're seeing in the cereal aisle, ISNT, just a shortage, a warning sign of a failing grain pipeline, rising production costs, and manufacturing slowdowns that point straight toward a deeper economic crisis. The latest USDA grain report is brutal. Wheat production has fallen 34% since October, hitting its lowest point in more than 2 decades. And if you think cereal companies can simply switch grains, think again. Corn and rice, the 2 major backups, are facing their own weather-driven problems, leaving manufacturers with fewer and fewer options to keep shelves filled. When the grain system collapses, cereal becomes one of the first products to feel the impact because it relies on consistent, high-volume supply. General Mills, one of the biggest cereal manufacturers on the planet, admitted something shocking in their latest earnings call. They are facing a perfect storm of shortages. It's their massive Minnesota plant, the facility that normally produces enough cereal to fill 100 Olympic-sized swimming pools per month, is operating at just 60% capacity. Worker shortages, outdated machinery, and supply chain backups are squeezing production like never before. Logs is no better. Their Buffalo plant, responsible for key corn-based cereals, struggling through multiple simultaneous crises. Aging equipment, labor shortages of more than 400 workers, and shipping delays that push production windows further and further back. That's why cereals like Frosted Flakes, Honey Bunches of Oats, and Special K protein varieties are becoming harder to find, especially in family-sized boxes. Big retailers are already preparing for impact. Walmart has quietly implemented a cereal rationalization program, limiting customers to 3 boxes in certain regions. Target's internal memos warn of 8 weeks of significant product gaps. And here, a twist most shoppers don't know. Store brands are often made in the same facilities as name brands, which means they are resuffering the exact same bottlenecks. Your survival plan is simple. Stock up on the cereals your family relies on, store them in a cool, dry place, and diversify your breakfast options with oats, granola, and shelf-stable grains. They last for months, they're cheap, and they give you control as the grain crisis deepens. Number 9, fresh berries. In the collapse of perishable produce, walk into the produce section today and feel it immediately. Berries are becoming luxury items. Strawberries at $7.99, blueberries over $8. And sometimes, entire shelves sitting empty. This isn't just seasonal fluctuation. This is a full-scale collapse of the winter berry supply chain, driven by extreme weather, fragile logistics, and rising transportation costs that are pushing fresh fruit out of reach for millions of families. What's coming next will affect every household that relies on fresh produce for vitamins, antioxidants, and a sense of normalcy. California and Florida, the 2 states that supply 99% of America's winter berries, have been hit by a devastating 1-2 punch. California just experienced its worst frost in 30 years. With temperatures plunging to 27 degrees Fahrenheit, freezing berries directly on the vine, nearly 40% of the crop was destroyed in a matter of hours. Meanwhile, Florida faced the opposite kind of disaster, an 80 degrees Fahrenheit warm spell in December that tricked berry plants into early blooming. followed by a sudden temperature crash that wiped out 60% of those early blooms. When crops fail on both coasts, the system has nowhere left to pull from. But the crisis doesn't end in the fields, it continues on the highways. The trucking industry, already struggling under fuel spikes and labor shortages, was hit with new emission regulations this January. Nearly 30% of smaller trucking companies were forced to either upgrade fleets or cut long-haul routes entirely. Refrigerated loads like berries became the most expensive to move. Shipping costs jumped 23% in just weeks. And some drivers refused berry loads because the refrigeration cost alone killed their profit margin. This is why stores like Kroger, Walmart, and even Whole Foods are struggling to keep berries in stock. Inventory gaps are forming faster than retailers can fill them, and prices are climbing with every shipment. But here's the silver lining few people know. Mexico's berry season has started 2 weeks early, thanks to ideal weather in the highland growing regions. Major grocery chains already secured emergency contracts to stabilize supply in late February and March, but until then, availability will remain tight. Your best move right now is simple and smart: switch to frozen berries. They're harvested at peak ripeness, flash frozen within hours, and often contain more nutrients than fresh berries that sit in trucks for days. Use them in smoothies, oatmeal, baking, or thawed as toppings. Why, if you see affordable fresh berries, grab one container, but don't rely on them. This shortage is a preview of what perishable produce will look like as climate pressure intensifies. Prepare now, while alternatives still exist. Number 10, the big picture. After everything we've covered, the disappearing vanilla. Collapsing coffee supply, the egg crisis, baby formula shortages, the hot sauce bottleneck, the frozen vegetable breakdown. Shrinking dairy production, cereal scarcity. In the berry collapse, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Our food system is far more fragile than anyone wants to admit. And if you're paying attention, these shortages aren't isolated events. They're warning signs of a much bigger shift: tightening economy, rising inflation, climate pressure, transportation failures, and global supply chain cracks are pushing us toward a reality where even basic grocery items can be counted on. That's why waiting is the biggest mistake you can make. The most important mindset shift right now is simple. You prepare before the collapse, not after. Once the news breaks, once the panic starts, once people rush the stores, it's already too late. You've seen what happens during shortages. Limits per customer, empty aisles, price spikes, and shelves stripped bare in hours. That's why building your food fortress now, quietly, steadily, and intelligently, is the only way to protect your household from the instability accelerating around us. Start with a 2-week buffer, stocked with the essentials you rely on daily: eggs or their substitutes, your preferred coffee, baby formula if you have infants, frozen vegetables, cereal, yogurt alternatives, and basic baking supplies. Then expand to a 3-month reserve by slowly adding shelf-stable grains like oats, rice, pasta, and canned proteins that can keep your family nourished if the system gets worse. Rotate what you buy, store everything in airtight containers, and keep your pantry cool, dark, and organized. Prepping isn't panic, prepping is planning. One of the smartest moves you can make is building a substitution list. If yogurt disappears, you switch to Skyr. If berries vanish, go frozen. If eggs spike, freeze beaten eggs or look for free-range alternatives. If coffee prices explode, switch to local roasters or roast small batches at home. When you already know what to pivot to, you stay calm while others scramble. But above all, remember, you don't need to do everything today. You just need to start. Every can, every bag, every item you secure now is one less thing you worry about when the next shock hits. Because one thing is certain: more disruptions are coming. And when they arrive, the people who prepared early will be the ones who stay steady, secure, and in control. At the end of the day, no one is coming to save you. Not the stores, not the supply chain, not the economy. Your preparation is your protection. Every item you secure now is a step towards stability when the next wave of shortages hits. Don't wait for headlines or panic buyers to remind you how fragile the system really is. Start small, start today, and build the security your family deserves. Because hope is not a strategy, action is. And the best time to act is right now.